Welcome back, everybody. I'm Ryan Thomas of the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're back live on the Thomas Take, and I want to really profile UFC 214 on this Thomas Take Tuesday. Want to mention tomorrow's show. I'm going to have Terry Cushman of AvidBoston.com join me on the show and talk about Red Sox baseball, the state of the Red Sox, the state of MLB currently, his take on John Farrell, the current manager for the Boston Red Sox, and much, much more. Tune into that. Even if you're not a Boston Red Sox fan, we're going to be talking about a lot of interesting topics inside the world of sports. So tune into that. I'll be posting that tomorrow on the Thomas Take YouTube page around 9 or 10. And also, every single edition of the Thomas Take is on that YouTube page. So subscribe. Why not? Post some comments. Ask some questions. This show is going to be rolling. The train is going to be rolling all day long. The Thomas Take train doesn't stop. So let's keep it going. Part 2 of today's show. As I said, I'm profiling UFC 214, July 29th, in the Honda Center in Anaheim, California. And the co-main event of that card features the welterweight champion putting his belt on the line, Tyron Woodley, versus the longtime submission artist of the UFC, Demian Maia, coming off 7 straight victories heading into this fight, this long overdue title shot, in which Maia is coming off a dominant victory over Jorge Masvidal back in May. And this is a fight that Maia really needed, a fight that I think will bode very well for him matchup-wise. And people are a little bit shocked that is what I have to say in terms of the matter. But I would be willing to say that let's talk about it. Let's go matchup for matchup, skill for skill. Striking and power, Woodley definitely holds the advantage. There's no doubt about it. But if you look at Tyron Woodley in his last couple fights, he's been very hesitant. So what are the keys to victory for Tyron Woodley? I think Woodley at all costs cannot put this fight on the ground. That is essentially numero uno. His best chance at winning this fight is to knock out Demian Maia. And Maia has been knocked out before. Woodley has been knocked out before. So it could definitely go either way. Maia, for a guy that is he doesn't look too physically intimidating on the screen, but he is a big guy. He is a big He does have a big base, and I think that is why he's able to kind of deceivingly ragdoll his opponents via, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu time and time again over the course of his career. So Tyron Woodley has to prevent Maia from taking him down, and realistically his best chance is to wear down Maia and force him into a boxing match, force him even into a kickboxing match. And if Maia is able to catch a kick from Woodley and take this fight to the ground at all, it is over. And in my eyes, in MMA, if a fighter has a ridiculous Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu game or a ridiculous ability for takedown offense and implementing his top game on the ground, there's not many ways to stop that. No matter how physically capable you look, no matter how big of a guy you are, if the opponent that is well-versed in jiu-jitsu and wrestling, if he can take you down and submit you, the fight is virtually over. You look at the pedigrees of guys like George St. Pierre and Randy Couture and Chael Sonnen and Dan Henderson. Guys like Dan Henderson kind of moved away from his wrestling and went to his right hand, obviously, and created his own career in itself. But guys with real wrestling pedigree that are able to put the opponents on their back and keep them there. And we'll even go as far as to say Daniel Cormier, a guy that is really good at doing that. So Maia either has to turn this into a fight where he's able to take down Woodley. Woodley has to turn this into a fight where he has to avoid the ground game at all costs and make this fight a boxing match, make it a fight in which he lands that knockout punch, that same knockout punch that Woodley landed versus Robbie Lawler, the same knockout punch that he's landed versus Josh Koscheck, the knockout punch that he's landed throughout his career. And he needs to land that punch again versus Maia. And that, to me, is more of a long shot than Maia being able to take Woodley down and submit him. I've seen Maia take guys down that I never thought he'd take down. I saw Maia fight Carlos Condit in his performance before last. Virtually in the first minute of the fight, he was on Carlos Condit's back like a backpack and submitted him. So this guy is a real Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Rubik's Cube that a lot of fighters have had a very tough time figuring out. And I don't know if Tyron Woodley has the savviness or the gamesmanship to figure a guy like this out. I think that this is a bad matchup for Woodley. And if Woodley goes in there and starches him, then even then I'm right, because I'm saying that Woodley's best advantage is to knock him out. And that's really it. If he can't knock him out, I think Maia has the means to finish the fight in more ways than one in comparison to Tyron Woodley, who really has only one way to win. Tyron Woodley's last two performances, the first fight with Wonderboy at UFC 205, and then they fought each other at UFC 209, I believe. I thought the second fight, Woodley lost that fight. I thought Wonderboy won the second fight. But that's neither here nor there. But in a sense, it's not, because of the fact that Woodley was not aggressive. He did not go after it. He didn't push the pace in that fight. It was all Woodley in kind of the fifth round. But besides that, if you really go back and watch, his back was to the cage almost the entire fight. So it's very tough for me to say that Woodley far and away won that fight when essentially it didn't appear to be that way. He was very cautious in attacking Wonderboy and was able to win the fight based off one knockdown in the entire fight. That was strange to me. One of the more questionable MMA decisions that I have seen in quite some time. So we could see Maia usher in a new era, but in the UFC Countdown show, Maia said this would be a great end for me. So Maia is a little bit older, and you know, this could be his last fight. Win, lose, or draw, this could be Demian Maia's last fight. There's really no reason via win, you know, if he were to win the fight, why carry on? You won the UFC title. That was your career accomplishment that you'd always wanted at middleweight and now at welterweight. And if he loses, who is he going to fight against? Is he going to go through the run-of-the-mill, you know, guys that he's already beat? He's on a 7-fight win streak. This is it. This is it for Demian Maia. He has to win this fight, and I think he knows that. And I think that is another reason why I give Maia the advantage in this fight. He knows that it's a fight that he needs to win, and sometimes that alone can be more than what the champion brings to the table as the champion. The champion believes he's the best, and the best that he has, he believes is enough. Demian Maia is not the champion. He wants the belt more than anything, and just that want can sometimes lead to victory. So we've seen that time and time again in fights that are huge upsets. Matt Serra versus GSP, Bisping versus Rockhold, Holm versus Rousey. Just time and time again throughout the UFC's history, we've seen fighters that want it more than the, at the time, champion. And I think Maia wants it more than Tyron Woodley. Demian Maia has fought virtually everybody that he could fight. And Woodley is not as experienced as Demian Maia. He's only been in this game for 5 years. Maia's been in this game for probably about 15. So I'm going to go with Maia for this fight, and that was predicted, but the keys to victory for Woodley, as I stated, Woodley really has to be able to knock him out. I don't think the judges would give him yet another decision if it's a lackluster fight. I think it would go to Maia, because Maia, if it's a lackluster fight, it would mean that Maia is implementing his ground game, securing better positions throughout the fight, and it would lead to Maia getting the nod. And in the case of Maia, he has to submit him or just maintain position. And he's very good at doing both of those things. So that is my take on Woodley versus Maia, the keys to victory. Very excited for this fight. And I want to kind of bookend this part 2 of today's show as I did in part 1 of today's show, talking about Demian Maia. Realistically, this guy is not as respected as he should be, not held in as high regard as he should be. For the people that watch the sport, that want to see the rock'em sock'em robots with 4-ounce gloves on punch and throw leather at each other, go watch boxing. That's not what this is. This is MMA, and Demian Maia has just as many submission victories as Royce Gracie, just as many submission victories as Nate Diaz. So this is a guy that really brings a lot to the table in terms of coming in and choking someone unconscious. There is something to say for that, I think. That's a part of MMA that does not get appreciated enough. And his wrestling, though, in terms of control and a solid base, Demian Maia has been able to really accomplish that quite well in his last few fights. His fight with Jorge Masvidal and his fight with Carlos Condit, to say the least. 2 impressive performances out of a 7-fight win streak that I think is going to continue to 8 and bookend his career. And what a way to go out. A UFC welterweight champ on an 8-fight win streak. Hall of Famer in my book. I think Demian Maia realistically is a Hall of Famer. I think that his game has been one of the more impressive games. You know, his repertoire has been one of the most impressive Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioners in UFC history. Maybe the most successful. You know, Royce Gracie, I respect him and everything like that, but those were the dog days of the UFC. This is the pinnacle. This is the highest caliber of fighters in MMA currently, and Demian Maia has beaten the past guard and the new guard. There's something to be said for that. Take care.